Please take today's video as entertainment only. I am not a financial advisor. You must of course do your own due diligence. Yeah.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
Coincidence.
Something that happens by chance, I think not. What's the crack, everybody? Welcome back to Buy Wholesale. I hope of course you are all well. It's the start of another financial week. We have big earnings starting, guys, with no bigger than Tesla tonight. Big Elon's going to get us all rock hard tonight, hopefully with lovely earnings. We know the delivery numbers are going to be better than what the expectations are, but will they have good profit at the bottom? It'll be interesting to see, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're actually talking about a video that I've done at the start of the month, a few weeks back, on American battery metals. Big stock, exciting stock, plenty of news coming out about it, and I actually read an article over the weekend that made me think I'll do a video on this here. It's sort of talking about the demand and stuff like that. But before we get into today's video, can you please please subscribe, growing this channel. Over 1,000 subscribers now, going really well, guys, getting loads of feedback, all that good stuff, so keep all that coming. Thanks very much for anyone that has subscribed. Go down to the description below, you'll see links to writers' articles, you'll see links to free trade. You and I both get a free share up to £200 if you're thinking about starting the journey, or you're thinking about just getting a bit of diversity. Click that link, you might as well get a free share. Also, now you can get me on Instagram, BHSDMV. You'll see all the glorious stuff that I was at the weekend. I'm sure anyone that is subscribed is loving all of that good stuff. Get me on Twitter poll votes, and I've now got this new section of my YouTube channel where I can actually do polls and votes and different things. I'll unlock that now because I've over 1,000 subscribers, so I'm excited to start using that, and I'm going to start using that as well for my voting. So yeah, plenty of stuff's happening, guys. Make sure to definitely subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, so we firstly talk about the stock here. It is absolutely tanked the last 3 months. General market conditions, it's brought it down obviously as well. But the last month we are up 30%. Now the majority of this you'll see came in the last week. 54% gain, guys. So the thing's throbbing, and the last close we're up 24%. So it took off in the last week. Now let's just have a look at why this has happened. So follow my video, go into the archives, check it out. Did it at the start of April. I'll share the link here for you so you can go on and have a look at it. But this came out, and this is what made the stock plummet, even more so than just the general market conditions. American Battery Metals Corporation retains the Ashcroft firm as it categorically denies the short sellers' allegations. So the company hired Ashcroft firm in response to false and defamatory reports posted on March the 9th and the 10th. So follow my video, the next day or two they released these reports, short selling, and pretty much everything in that report American Battery Metals have completely denied. They're saying it's completely falsified, it's all made up, and that's why they're hitting them back strong. Now this happens, guys, you know, short sellers are out to make their own line, their own pockets. But in terms of my timing of entry point for this stock, like I said, I in my last video said I was going to open up a position. I've only just slightly opened up that position, about £200 deep, but I have been able to literally buy the next day. Following this report, it started going on a downward trajectory. I started phasing in the money, and now I'm currently 27% up on the thing. So I'm absolutely delighted with how the news reports came out. A touch lucky that way, but it also gets rid of people that are weak, shaky hands. It gets rid of all that tripe, and hopefully now you've got good, strong shareholders. But it wouldn't be surprised with the rise like that there that it's on people's radar, and people start jumping back on this here and ramping it up. We believe these reports were intended to manipulate our stock price downward in the support of short sellers. American Battery Metals Corporation categorically denies the allegations and their implications, and has retained the Ashcroft firm to investigate this matter and take all available legal resources to protect our shareholders. The company also intends to report this activity to the appropriate regulators. So they just go on to pretty much say, we're going to defend all this here. Everything in the report is BS, pretty much. Don't need to go into it any more than that. That's you up to date on that. We'll do a wee bit more of an overview of the chart later on in the video, but I just want to have a look now at some of the other news articles out there. Don't forget, guys, that earnings is on the radar here. Nobody's expecting them to do, you know, wonderful things. The big catalyst for this year is building a new factory. The new factory is probably not going to be done by the next 2 quarters perhaps, but you're probably talking end of the year. It could even roll on to the start of the new year, so it's a long hold for me. It's, you know, that's clear. That's what I've said in the last video. That's what this is. But let's just have a look and see what other good news articles are out there, because there's a few. Okay, so if we go on the proactive there, guys, I really want to show this. American Battery Metals enters into stock purchase agreement with institutional investor for up to $75 million US worth of shares. Mass sell-off. all the shaky hands, people on their phone, sell, 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 getting caught up in this short story, and then the institutions are going, bye, I'll have a bit of that, please. This is brilliant. This is what you'd want. I mean, if you're a shareholder, the main people you want is a load of institutions buying it, because they're not going to sell at the worst time. If anything, they're going to buy the dips and they're investing. Instead, it entered into a common stock purchase agreement with an institutional investor for up to 75 million worth of shares, issuable over the next 24 months. So a long haul, 75 million being phased in over 24 months. Brilliant news. The company, which is processing, is changing its name to American Battery Technology Company, as I talked about in my previous video, noted that the institutional investor is an exciting shareholder who has invested in fixed price equity over the past year. Chief Officer said this is a major milestone for our company as we move through the construction and commissioning of our lithium-ion battery recycling pilot plant over the coming months. We may face challenges during this process, however, as this equity investment agreement has the ability to completely satisfy all of our capital needs for the entire pilot plant. Wow, that's great, guys, because as shareholders, you're always conscious that they could maybe dilute shares, they might have to raise more capital, which means your share price will go down. Although me as a long-term holder, I don't mind that, because they're taking money to reinvest. But that's great that they're literally saying this money is enough to cover the facility, from facility construction and the infrastructure build out to purchasing equipment to integrating and commissioning all of the process equipment. We can now be assured that the access to capital will not be a limiting factor. Fantastic, guys. I also want to talk about this article. American Battery Metals Corporation responds to the Department of Energy request for information regarding risks to the high capacity battery supply chain. Before we even get into the article, it's good, like I talked about in my previous video, because it's called American Battery Metals, it's based in America. I believe with Biden's plans, who also had stuff like this, or previous week, sorry, when he was talking about ramping up and supply chains and then more money being pumped in and all this, it's great that American Battery Metals seems to be their go-to to talk about this stuff. Really, I truly believe that American Battery Metals is really poised. Out of all the different ones that I've talked about in my playlist, they're poised for big things here. So they went to them and they've asked about the risks, and this is what made me want to do this video, because I feel like this is a good to talk about this. The company outlined the risk inherited in its current battery critical material supply chain, identified recycling of lithium batteries using next generation extract technologies as the fastest, most economically environmental friendly way to increase domestic sources of critical battery materials, and proposed policy solutions to scale a circular economy for battery metals in ways that work for local communities, environment, companies alike. The company is pleased to share below portions of its DOE RFI response. The full RFI response can be found here. It's a big read. Go in, check it out if you wish, but their sort of highlights are enough to go through here. Geopolitical risk. Global demand for battery metals is expected to grow over tenfold by 2030. We've talked about that to death, guys. Not going to go over any more on that, but it's approximately 100 billion a year. Bear in mind, ABL's market cap is, for this company and for the potential, is quite small, guys. So there's plenty of room for upscaling. However, the current battery metals industry in the United States is not able to meet the growing demand at home. Approximately 99% of lithium, nickel, and cobalt and magnesium battery metals are sourced from a handful of foreign countries, South America, Africa, so on and so forth. American Battery Technology Company is addressing this gap by scaling the homegrown leader in lithium-ion battery recycling. So look, I'm all for recycling, talked about in previous videos. It's all well and good being able to source this and pump it all out, but we don't want to end up in the situation where we have a plastic now where it's just frigging everywhere, and we're doing this sort of recycling, backdating recycling. It just doesn't work. You need to be recycling now. So I believe American Battery Minerals, Aqua Metals, these types of ones that are investing in recycling are going to be game changing. So they talk about the current pilot plant facility in Nevada. Who else is doing batteries in Nevada? Tesla. Hopefully one day a deal like that, and I don't foresee that not becoming a thing. The only way Tesla will maybe not use a company like this, if it's on its doorstep and they get its battery recycled and they just return them, brilliant. But don't be surprised if Tesla come up with some amazing way to be able to recycle their own batteries. So I'm not hanging my hat on that. They talk about the climate risk and outdated recycling methods. We know about that as well. The lack of collection and transport infrastructure. The safe transportation and storage of lithium-ion batteries is critical to the success of the battery recycling supply chain, and it's stemming the tide of lithium-ion batteries that end up in the landfills and in unchecked fire hazards in local communities. They talk about the regulatory frameworks. Again, that's something that the government can step in and help to sort out and streamline that process. talking about separating different types of waste, recycling, the way you've been able to do that. Just like now, you know, people put their plastic in a different bin or put in their tin, it'll be the same thing. Batteries will become more relatively used. People will have them. Where do I put them? I will put them in this category bin. This will go to a dump, which is all to do with batteries. Makes it easier just to get the batteries, recycle them and break them down. American Battery Metals, or soon to be American Battery Technology, you know, they're very involved with the government. They seem to be sort of consulting with the government, which is great because it means that there's going to be access to grants, all the help. That means that the government are helping. We've got institution investors now. Fantastic. American Battery Metals CEO discussed battery recycling in the upcoming US Climate Action Week. So this video, they just talk about what's coming on. It's worth watching. She's going to actually be a part of the Climate Week, which is, I think, September 30th. So it's a bit of a time away, but it's good that they're in the discussions, and obviously that'll be very key for us to be talking about and getting excited about. In my previous videos, I've been looking at how much board members are being paid, just to get an idea if this company is as good as it thinks, or is people bleeding it dry. But based on American dollars, and you know, considering that the chairman's been there nearly 4 years, he is part owner of he's got, you know, 3% ownership, 32 million's worth. I don't believe that their wages are too big, up $1 million between them two. It is quite a substantial amount of money, but based on other companies of this magnitude, over 1 billion market cap, it's not a huge amount of money, and translating that back into pound, it's, you know, 700 grand. It's for director level, that's not too bad. So, and then even further down, you see the other directors, you know, 100 odd grand, 100. It's reasonable. It is reasonable. 20,000 shares were sold in the last 3 to 6 months. Not too sure why that was, but if we actually scroll down, we can get a look at the top shareholders. And the top shareholders here, you can see, apart from Douglas, who sold those minor selection of shares, minor 1.72%, the rest have all increased their stake. Directors that keep buying more shares is a very good sign. Obviously, as I talked about earlier on, dilution of shares heavily diluted over the last year, but again, that is because of the investment, the new plant, XYZ. Now that we have the institutions, I don't believe this has been updated to conclude those new institution buys. That'll be phased in over the next couple of 24 months. But you can see here, it's mostly owned by the public. We want to get more institutions involved, and we have taken that first step with that report that I showed you. Before we look at the chart, just want to look at this again. Abml stock, banging into Google, all that comes up is American Metals Corporation stock is throbbing, source 30%, it's up almost 70%. Why is it up? Blah blah blah. So there's a lot of articles going out there about the rise of this here, so it'll be very interesting to see how this trading week goes now that people have had the weekend to digest. So I had done my video, and then the stock has just pretty much went on a downward spiral based on the back of, let's say, the 8th and the 9th, the 10th. That's when those articles came out. People have digested them and started to sell off, about to bounce back. Their response to that then, and then what we've seen is a go literally just went over the moving average price there for the daily chart. So now we're sort of building up a bit of support here. So you can see here, guys, in and around sort of the 180 was a bit of support level. We did get a full candle start above that, so it'll be interesting to see what way the stock opens today. Obviously, we'll be hoping for it to continue on this trajectory, or at least build a bit of support in and around this 180 level. The earnings coming up here in May, all being well. I can't see an official date yet, but when the earnings come out, that'll give us a real idea of where this goes. Now, bear in mind, based on the previous earnings, I do believe that they've got a lot of good stuff in the pipeline, but I'm really taking a step back and going, you know, I'm not expecting these earnings to potentially blow us away. There could be good news in there. I mean, they are trying to change their name to the technology, American Batteries Technology. If they can get the name changed and maybe prove that some of the stuff that they're talking about is actually starting to fruition, you know, you could see a throb. But I'm prepared to be buying the dips. I'm prepared to sit tight. I would like it to build a bit of support around the 180. I'm just going to let this week pan out and see what kind of support, see what the rest of the week brings. But I'm very keen to open up my positions. I potentially will be leaving it until after earnings, just to see what the next while goes. If I miss a big rise, I miss a big rise. It's a long hold, this stock, so I'm not too concerned. And that's the video, guys. Look, I hope you found this one informative. Big things to look out for is in September we have that conference that they're talking about, and also we're going to have, more importantly, the earnings coming up in May sometime. Of course, hit the subscribe button. I'll keep you informed with any new developments, and especially when we get those earning reports, we'll have a good dive through it and digest all that. And until next time, guys, get me on Instagram, BHSDMV. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Coincidence. Yeah. Coincidence. Something that happens by chance, I think not.